The Hermeticism hidden in the Matrix. What if I told you that one of the most influential philosophical texts in human history was written not by a Greek philosopher, not by a biblical prophet, but by a mythical figure who was both a god and a man, both Egyptian and Greek, both real and imagined? And what if I told you that the Wachowski sisters buried this ancient wisdom so deeply into the Matrix that almost no one noticed it for over 20 years? You've seen the movie. You know the red pill, the blue pill. You know Morpheus, Trinity, Neo. But you don't know the real story. You don't know about the thrice-great sage whose teachings echo through every frame. You don't know about Hermes Trismegistus. And by the time this video ends, you'll never watch The Matrix the same way again. In the 3rd century of the Common Era, in the bustling cultural crossroads of Alexandria, Egypt, something extraordinary happened. Greek philosophers, Egyptian priests, Jewish mystics, and early Christian thinkers all found themselves in the same city, at the same moment in history, all searching for the same thing: the truth beneath the surface of reality. And from this crucible of cultures emerged a figure who would shape Western thought for the next 2,000 years. His name was Hermes Trismegistus, which means Hermes, the thrice-great. He was a fusion of the Greek god Hermes, messenger of the gods, and the Egyptian god Thoth, god of wisdom, writing, and magic. And he was credited with writing a series of texts that would become known as the Hermetica, teachings that claimed to reveal the hidden architecture of the universe itself. Now here's where it gets strange. The people of Alexandria didn't just think Hermes was a wise teacher. They believed he was a divine being who had walked the earth in the most ancient times, before Plato, before Moses, before Abraham. They believed he had received direct revelation from the mind of God and had passed this wisdom down to a select few initiates who could handle the truth. Sound familiar? It should, because this is exactly the story Morpheus tells Neo when he offers him the red pill. The idea that there is a hidden truth, that most people are sleepwalking through an illusion, and that a small group of awakened ones are fighting to free the rest. This isn't just a plot device, it's the core narrative of Hermeticism itself. But the Hermetic teachings go much deeper than just the red pill moment. In fact, the entire philosophical structure of the Matrix is built upon a foundation that most viewers completely miss. Let's start with the most famous Hermetic principle of all, the one that appears on the Emerald Tablet, perhaps the most influential text in the history of alchemy. It says, "As above, so below. As within, so without." This simple phrase contains a revolutionary idea, that the macrocosm of the universe is reflected in the microcosm of the individual human being, that the patterns you see in the stars are the same patterns you'll find within your own soul, that the structure of reality is fractal, repeating itself at every scale. Now watch The Matrix again with this in mind. What is the film really about? It's about the relationship between the world above, the real world of Zion, the last human city, and the world below, the simulated reality of the Matrix. But it's also about the relationship between the world outside Neo and the world within him. Morpheus tells him, "The Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. But when you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Business people, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged, and many of them are so inured, so hopelessly dependent on the system that they will fight to protect it." This isn't just science fiction dialogue. This is the Hermetic understanding of how illusion traps the human soul. The Hermetica teaches that human beings are essentially divine sparks trapped in material bodies, living in a world of illusion that keeps us asleep to our true nature. Sound familiar? It should, because that's exactly the predicament of the humans in the Matrix. They're living in a completely simulated reality, their true selves submerged in pods of liquid, their energy harvested by machines. But here's the twist that most people miss. The Hermetic tradition doesn't see this as a punishment. It sees it as a necessary part of the soul's journey. The descent into matter, into illusion, into the darkness, this is actually a gift. It's how we learn. It's how we grow. It's how we eventually come to know ourselves. There's a passage in the Hermetica where Hermes Trismegistus describes creation itself. He doesn't describe a tidy, orderly process like you'd find in Genesis. Instead, he describes something much stranger. He describes a darkness, fearful and hideous. He describes a moisture, unspeakably troubled. He describes a voice, mournful and inarticulate. This is the chaos from which all things are born, and it's the same chaos Neo must navigate when he's first unplugged from the Matrix. Remember that scene? He wakes up in a pod of liquid, naked, confused, disoriented. He sees the billions of other pods stretching into the darkness. He's flushed out with the waste and pulled from the water by Morpheus's ship. It's a rebirth scene, but it's not a clean one. It's messy, traumatic, terrifying, and that's exactly what the Hermetic tradition says true awakening feels like. The Hermetica teaches that before you can ascend to higher knowledge, you must first descend into the depths. You must encounter the monsters. You must face the darkness. You must be willing to lose everything you thought was real. This is the valuable descent, the necessary journey into the underworld that every hero must make. And it's exactly what Neo goes through. He loses his name, Thomas Anderson, and becomes Neo. He loses his body, his physical form in the Matrix, and discovers his true self. He loses his life, dying at the hands of Agent Smith, and is reborn with powers he never knew he had. But here's the part that might disturb you. The Hermetic tradition teaches that this principle doesn't just apply inside the Matrix, it applies everywhere. It applies to what we call reality, too. Because if the universe is mental, if all is mind, then what we call the real world is also a kind of simulation. It's also a construct. It's also something that can be understood, manipulated, and ultimately transcended. This is why the film ends with Neo making a phone call to the machines. He doesn't destroy the Matrix. He makes a deal. He promises to eliminate the rogue program Smith in exchange for peace. And then he says something extraordinary. He says, "I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you, a world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries, a world where anything is possible." This is the Hermetic promise. Not escape from the world, but transformation of it. Not rejection of the illusion, but mastery over it. Not fear of the machines, but understanding of them. Because in the Hermetic view, everything is connected. Everything is one. The divine is in everything, and everything is in the divine. The machines aren't the enemy. The illusion isn't the enemy. The only enemy is ignorance. The only enemy is forgetting who you really are. And who are you really? According to the Hermetic tradition, you are a divine being having a human experience. You are a spark of the eternal fire, temporarily housed in a body of clay. You are the microcosm reflecting the macrocosm. You are the universe becoming aware of itself. This is why the injunction at Delphi was, "Know thyself." This is why the name Temet Nosce appears on the oracle's door in the film. Because self-knowledge isn't just one path among many, it's the only path. Everything else is just distraction. The Hermetic tradition teaches that there are 7 principles governing reality: mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, and gender. The Matrix illustrates every single one of them. Mentalism, we've already discussed. The universe is mental. Correspondence, we've discussed. As above, so below. Vibration appears in the way the characters can feel the matrix, can sense its rhythms. Polarity appears in the opposition between Neo and Smith, between the real and the simulated. Rhythm appears in the cycles of control and liberation that repeat throughout the story. Cause and effect appears in the choices the characters make and the consequences that follow. And gender appears in the balance between masculine and feminine, between Morpheus's strength and Trinity's love, between the oracle's wisdom and the architect's logic. But perhaps the most important principle for our purposes is the principle of cause and effect. The Hermetica teaches that nothing happens by accident. Every action has a reaction. Every choice has a consequence. And this means that you are not a victim of fate. You are a co-creator of your own reality. You have free will. You have agency. You have the power to choose. Think about Neo's journey. He's told he's the one. He's told he's destined to save humanity, but he doesn't believe it. He spends most of the film doubting himself, questioning whether he's worthy, wondering if Morpheus has made a mistake. And then in the final act, something shifts. He stops asking whether he's the one and starts acting as if he is. He goes back into the Matrix to save Morpheus, even though he knows he'll probably die. He faces Agent Smith, even though he knows he can't win. And in that moment of total surrender, total commitment, total faith, something miraculous happens. He transcends his limitations. He becomes what he was always meant to be. This is the Hermetic secret. You don't find yourself by looking. You find yourself by doing. You don't discover your destiny by waiting. You create it by choosing. You don't become the one by being told you are. You become the one by acting as if you are, over and over again, until the illusion of separation dissolves and you realize you always were. The Hermetic tradition has survived for over 2,000 years because it speaks to something fundamental in the human soul. It speaks to the sense we all have that there's more to life than what we see. It speaks to the intuition that we are more than our bodies, more than our jobs, more than our roles and responsibilities. It speaks to the hope that death is not the end, that matter is not all that matters, that consciousness survives the dissolution of the body. And the Matrix survives as a cultural touchstone for the same reason. 25 years after its release, people are still watching it, still discussing it, still finding new meanings in it. Why? Because it's not just a movie about the future, it's a movie about now. It's not just a story about machines, it's a story about us. It's not just science fiction, it's scripture. The Wachowski sisters may not have set out to make a Hermetic film. They may never have read the Corpus Hermeticum or studied the Emerald Tablet, but they tapped into something that transcends individual intention. They tapped into the collective unconscious. They tapped into the perennial philosophy that runs through all great spiritual traditions. They tapped into the truth that Hermes Trismegistus revealed to his disciples 2,000 years ago, that reality is a dream, that you are the dreamer, and that awakening is possible. So here's the question the film leaves you with, the same question the Hermetic tradition has been asking for millennia. Are you ready to wake up? Are you ready to take the red pill? Are you ready to see how deep the rabbit hole goes? Because the Matrix isn't just in the movie, it's everywhere. It's all around us, even now in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It's the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. And the truth? The truth is that you are not a slave. You were not born into bondage. You were born into possibility. You were born into potential. You were born with the capacity to know yourself, to transcend your limitations, to become something more than you ever imagined. The red pill is still on the table. The spoon still bends, not because the spoon changes, but because you remember there was no spoon to begin with. The oracle still whispers from the kitchen of your own heart, not telling you what you want to hear, but showing you what you've always known, that the kingdom is within you, that the light is over all things, and that you are not a slave to any system, any machine, any illusion. Hermes Trismegistus wrote it on emerald tablets. The Wachowski sisters wove it into celluloid. The mystics have been chanting it for millennia. And now the message has found its way to you. Reality is a dream. You are the dreamer, and awakening is not something that happens to you. It is something you choose. If this journey into the hidden hermetic wisdom of the Matrix has stirred something in your soul, if you're ready to see how deep the rabbit hole really goes, then please help this channel grow and spread the light by hitting that like button, subscribing to Temet Nosce, and turning on notifications so you never miss another exploration into the ancient truths that are calling us all awake. And drop a comment below telling us which Hermetic principle spoke most deeply to you. The truth that as above, so below, the realization that the universe is mental, or the invitation to know yourself as the key to everything. Your voice matters, and together we are learning to see through the illusion and remember who we truly are. Thank you for being with us.